Hello class, I'm going to start to talk about trees now in this video series because trees are always an important part of site plan. Now there's different ways of doing trees. I might show a couple in these videos, but the primary way that I like to work is I like to make my trees a brush in Illustrator. Some people like to use Photoshop or images because they look most real and they get a lot of texture in by doing it that way. And that is a good strategy, and I have done that way before. But I'm going to show you how to sort of make a treetop plant and then use it. And by the various settings I have in this brush, you'll be able to make it easily. You'll be able to easily change its size. You'll be able to easily change its color. You'll be able to make it easily for a random set of trees versus street trees. It really has a lot of flexibility. So that's one reason why I'm going to show it this way, and one reason why I end up using a lot in real life. Because once it's made once, it's really easy to reuse. So and that's key. That's key. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I am going to have to do this in steps. So this might turn into a couple videos here, but I'm going to make a new layer above my CAD layer. I rarely do this for any object, but I want my trees to block out things like the parking lines or even sidewalk lines or things that they sit above. So the only way I can do that is to put it above the CAD layer itself. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna come down, and I'm gonna zoom in somewhere. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna zoom in maybe over here, and I am going to have ability to change the size of these trees later on. I'm so far zoomed in it's hard to tell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going to my ellipse tool right here and drawing a circle that is about the size I think I want my biggest trees to exist at. Which one nice way of doing it over parking is you can know that the full parking bay is 60 feet, and big trees are about 40 feet large, so that's probably a very big tree, but somewhere around there might be approximately my largest size tree. I like working large because it's easier to work large here. And I want to change my color, and I often will play a lot with my colors. And again, the way that I'm doing, you'll be able to adjust your colors later on, but just to get a good start. And really this is going to be more about contrast, because what it will do later on, the colors, the hue will be more easily changeable, but we'll want a good contrast to keep the contrast no matter what color we set the tree at. So we're going to do that. I'm going to set the tree there. And of course trees aren't circular, but I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to go Distort, Transform, Roughen here, and I'm going to change this to let's see. Well, one thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to make it smooth. I'll do preview on, and we'll come here and change this number, and we'll see when I pull that up, it gets all sort of crinkly like a tree might be. And again, your scale of your drawing, you might need to change what this is set at, but I'll go with this. I think this will generally work for my drawing, and I'll say OK. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come and I'm going to change my color to a brighter color. Again, a lot of this is about contrast at this stage, not the exact hue, because we'll change that later on. So it's about making a brighter color. And I don't want it to be too different, because I want it to be sort of subtle. What I'm going to do is on top of this green shape, I'm going to draw a shape that I might even use some curves. Just comes out, and this is going to be the highlighted size of the tree. So since trees are sort of spherical, it'll come out on one side more than another, right? So this will sort of be the lit side of the tree, and that, since it's a sphere, it's sort of going to come up and exist in the top portion of the tree. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to apply an effect. I'm going to go to Distort, Transform, Apply Roughen again, but I'm going to want to set my settings differently than I did last time. I want to keep it smooth still, but I want to make these numbers larger than I did last time, so it gets a little more crinkly since it's sort of internal detail, and I'll say OK. Now at this stage you might go ahead and play with these things to get the highlighting the way that you want to, and that's up to you. And you want to get this to be what you want to look like a tree. Maybe you want to pull this out because, oops, just trying to get this one little point here to pull this out. Fill in this edge, the bright edge, a little bit more, maybe pull this around a little bit more. You know, all these things you can play with to get it the way you want. Now zoomed in, it certainly looks like a fake tree, but that's because I'm so far zoomed in. And so test it, pull out, and say, hey, does that look like the highlighting I want? I could probably reduce the highlighting in this zone a little bit, and you know, there you go. I'm going to just, for the sake of the video, I'll just keep moving on. I'm sure I could play with that 1,000 times over to get something that I really liked. And you should too. And I've got trees that I use that I have spent that time on. Now, as I said, what I like to do is I like to get my trees as a brush. So I'm going to open up my brush here, and I'm going to select both of these objects. I'm going to come and drag this into the object to make a new brush. I am going to make a new scatter brush, so make sure scatter brush is selected and say OK. And now you're going to have all these settings, and this is where you can really start to do these things. So I can change the scale of this by changing this. And you can always come back and change this later. And then for street trees, I'm going to have to change this number again. You'll see this in a video or so as we go through. And you can do scatter if you wanted to make more of a scattered effect, which if you're doing random trees you might need to do as well. But one of the key things is I'm going to change this colorization to tint and shades, so that way as I adjust the color of this object, it will change based on what I want it to be. So I'll just say OK. And now what I have, I'll probably follow up with another video because I realize it's getting long. So let me just demonstrate this really quick. If I have a string of trees, I can just draw a line, and then I can select it to be this brush, and we can see that I've got these trees just repeated all along that line. And I can now change the size of these trees just by changing the size of the stroke. So if I make the stroke smaller, we can see the trees get smaller. Alternatively, oops, I meant to change the fill to no color, not the stroke. Alternatively, as I change the stroke color, I can change the tree color. Not that trees are any of these colors, but we can see how easy it is to change the size of the tree and change the color of the tree. And so that is a basis of a good tree. So I don't need that line, and I don't need this object anymore either, because I got to put my real trees in. But what I'll do is I'll follow up with videos to show street trees, which are nice and straight and linear, and then I'll follow up and show trees that are sort of more scattered about. So we'll see those in other videos.